Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska and this is the news. Echoes of the corruption scandal in the European Parliament are not going away. During yesterday's debate on the issue, MEPs overwhelmingly stressed that democracy is not for sale and that reforms are urgently needed to protect democracy from corruption and foreign interference. Among the proposals made was the establishment of a commission on the issue. Yesterday, Belgium's federal prosecutor announced that former MEP Antonio Panzeri, who was arrested in corruption charges in December, has agreed to cooperate with Belgian authorities. As part of the agreement we have made, Mr. Panzeri is committing to certain things, namely information about corrupt individuals, information about financial leads, information about benefits received, a whole set of information that will allow the investigation to move forward. And in return, he will receive a punishment that will be real, but will be lighter than normal. My comment will be no comment. Belgian authorities are seeking the extradition of Panzeri's daughter, who is currently under house arrest in Italy. In December, an Italian court agreed to hand over the politician's wife to Belgian authorities. According to investigators, both women were involved in corruption. We must realize that all the suspects in this scandal will be concerned about themselves and their own future. If there will be any revelations, they must be approached with detachment. A suspect is a person who faces the risk of spending years behind bars, so they can do anything to improve their fate. A new vice president of the European Parliament was elected in Strasbourg this afternoon.
I read now the results. Marc Angel 307. Marc Angel has been elected vice president of the European Parliament. Congratulations.
The discredited Eva Kaili will be replaced by a party colleague from the Socialists and Democrats. We voted against this candidacy, and I was convinced that the political faction should bear responsibility for the fact that so many of its prominent politicians today are in the circle of suspicion, that they are the ones who are mainly, or rather exclusively, affected by this biggest corruption scandal to date. Yesterday, there was a heated debate in the EU Parliament regarding the corruption scandal. There were bitter words from the rostrums directed at the Eurocrats. This is hypocrisy, and it is sad that now we all have to be ashamed of our colleagues and actually be subject to such a kind of collective responsibility and negative evaluation by the voters. What's more, it is corruption, it is political corruption that has brought Europe to the situation we are in today. We will never allow Poland to be mocked by bribe takers from Brussels. MEPs from the factions of the European Conservatives and Reformists wanted a commission of inquiry in the EU Parliament. But unfortunately, the parliamentary majority did not agree to the establishment of an investigative commission. We think this is wrong. Examples were given as arguments that the rules of procedure do not allow or that the procedures are not right. Last week, Parliament Speaker Roberta Metsola outlined a series of reforms in response to the corruption scandal. Rules on meetings between MEPs and lobbyists are to be tightened. MEPs' asset declarations are to be presented in more detail. Their post-term activities are also to be regulated. Deliberate action is one of the possible causes of the helicopter crash in Browary, which killed the head of Ukraine's Interior Ministry, Denis Monastyrskyi. A total of 14 people were killed, including one child. 25 were injured, including 11 children. The Security Service of Ukraine reports that the investigation in the case currently assumes 3 possible versions of the accident: pilot error, technical problems, or deliberate action. The tragedy occurred around 8 a.m. Witnesses say there was a distinctive sound of a falling machine, followed by a bang. At the time, St. Pauline father, Roman Laba, was staying at a rectory just 200 meters from the crash site. When we approached the scene of the event, the police also asked us for help because one girl, in a panic, had died somewhere, meaning she started running away and they could not find her. Ukraine's Emergency Situations Service reported that more than a dozen people died in the helicopter crash, including the head of Ukraine's Interior Ministry, Denis Monastyrskyi. The helicopter hit right next to a kindergarten building. 4 children are dead and 11 are injured. The Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine has taken over supervision of the investigation.
Young guy, very patriotic guy, doing a lot of things for Ukraine and make a police reform in Ukraine, and it's actually big strategy for Ukraine, for his family. It's and also children.
I am deeply shocked by the news of the tragic death of Minister Denis Monastyrskyi and 2 other members of the leadership of Ukraine's Interior Ministry. To the family of the deceased and to the entire Ukrainian society, I extend my deepest sympathies. Farewell, friends. The rescue operation in Dnipro after the Russian missile attack ended yesterday. 79 people were wounded, 45 Ukrainians were killed, including 6 children and an 11-month-old boy. This footage shows a block of flats in Dnipro just after the missile hit. It shows a woman, most likely in shock, standing on the edge of her destroyed apartment. I'm sure that now, after Davos, there will be more active people to form a tribunal. Since February 24th, Russia is said to have lost more than 117,000 troops, more than 3,100 tanks, 6,200 armored vehicles, or nearly 300 aircraft in Ukraine. Over the past 24 hours, the Russians have shelled the Nikopol region, Mykolaiv region, and Kherson region, among others, with 4 people wounded. The British Defense Ministry conveyed that the seizure of Soledar by the Russians and Wagner Group mercenaries will increase the risk of cutting the Ukrainian supply route to the defending Bakhmut. The Russian assault on Soledar was a support operation aimed at encircling the larger village Bakhmut. One of Bakhmut's 2 main supply routes is now under increasing pressure. Meanwhile, U.S. and Ukrainian army commanders, Generals Mark Milley and Valery Zaluzhny, met in Poland. This is the first such meeting between the U.S. and Ukraine. According to Professor Piotr Grochmalski, Russia is preparing for another significant confrontation with Ukraine. Most Western reports, but also Ukrainian reports, make it clear that Russia has prepared for a second major massive strike. Deputy Speaker of the Sejm, Małgorzata Gosiewska, has donated a generator set to the Ukrainian Children's Hospital in Brzuchowice. It is the largest hospital in Ukraine with 3,200 beds. We have been cooperating since the beginning of this fierce war. We brought medicine, equipment. Now we are giving concrete help. I thank the Polish government, the people, the Poles, everyone very much, because Poland was the country that first reached out to help us. And thanks to this, we are working in the regime we are working in today. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte is on a visit to the United States. He declared that the Netherlands will also provide Ukraine with a Patriot missile system. Earlier today, Polish President Andrzej Duda participated in a panel at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, saying it is crucial for Western countries to send additional military support to Ukraine in the form of modern tanks and missiles.
Russia is not defeating. They are still Russians. They are still very strong. There is a lot of Russian soldiers on the front line. And we are afraid that they are preparing themselves to the new offensive in a few months, probably. So this is crucial to send now additional military support to Ukraine, especially modern tanks, especially modern missiles to defend Ukraine, but first of all to stop Russian offensive. Is it enough? This is the question. I'm afraid it's not. That this assistance we've just sent to Ukraine is still not enough. Ukraine needs more our efforts, needs more our aid, and we should mobilize ourselves to help them because the situation is really difficult.
As usual, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful evening.